Most people go through life believing they know what they're doing, why they're doing it, and who they really are. But what if that's just an illusion? There was a man who questioned everything: his beliefs, his society, even himself. He lived over 2,000 years ago, and yet his central idea is still the key to living a meaningful life today. That man was Socrates, and the one idea that shaped everything he said, and it was shockingly simple yet incredibly powerful. Know thyself. This ancient insight didn't just change his life, it could radically change yours too. Section 1. Who was Socrates? Let's rewind to ancient Athens. Socrates wasn't a king, a general. He was a stonemason by trade. But in his heart, he was a relentless questioner. He walked barefoot through the city, engaging anyone who would talk to him: nobles, slaves asking the kind of questions that made people uncomfortable. He never wrote down a single word. What we know of him comes from his student Plato, who turned Socratic dialogues into the foundation of Western philosophy. But Socrates wasn't seen as a hero in his time. In fact, he was tried and executed for corrupting the youth and impiety, because he challenged people's deepest assumptions. And that started with one radical principle: that wisdom begins with recognizing how little we actually know. Section to the one idea: know thyself. Inscribed above the entrance to the temple of Apollo at Delphi were 3 words: know thyself. And Socrates took those words to heart. To Socrates, knowing yourself wasn't about personality, quizzes, or surface-level self-help. It was about radical self-examination. He believed that every person has a duty to examine their own beliefs, motivations, values, and actions. Not just once, but constantly. Why? Because most people live by default. They inherit beliefs from their families, chase success defined by others, and follow habits formed without reflection. Socrates said, "The unexamined life is not worth living." It sounds extreme, but he meant that without self-awareness, we live like sleepwalkers, reacting, conforming, drifting without truly living. Section 3. How Socrates applied it. Socrates made a life of questioning others, not because he thought he was smarter, but because he believed that through honest dialogue, we can uncover the truth. This method is known as the Socratic method, asking a series of probing questions to expose contradictions in a person's beliefs. For example, if someone claimed to know what justice is, Socrates would ask her, "What is justice? Is justice always the same in every situation? Can something appear just but actually be unjust?" Very quickly, people realized they couldn't defend their assumptions. And in that space, a confusion of realizing what they didn't know was the beginning of wisdom. Ironically, Socrates claimed he was the wisest man alive, because he knew that he knew nothing. But here's the catch: people don't like being shown they're wrong, especially powerful people. Socrates exposed their ignorance in public, which made him a target. Eventually, he was sentenced to death. Yet even facing the hemlock, he didn't back down from the idea. To him, dying for the examined life was better than living in ignorance. Section for how it applies to us. You might be thinking, cool story, but I'm not an ancient philosopher. I've got bills, deadlines, and real-world problems. But that's exactly why knowing yourself matters more than ever. In today's world, you're being examined constantly, not by philosophers, but by algorithms. Every scroll, like, and purchase is tracked. You're told what to buy, what to wear, what success looks like, what beauty means, and what kind of life you should want. And over time, you start confusing those voices with your own. How many of your goals are really yours? How much of your anxiety comes from chasing a version of life you never consciously chose? Socrates would say, slow down. Ask better questions. Sit with discomfort. Examine everything. And you don't need to be a philosopher to start. Here are some ways. Journaling, not for Instagram quotes real. For reflection, ask, why did I react that way today? Or what do I really want? questioning beliefs, especially the ones that feel permanent. Ask, where did I learn this? Is it still serving me? Clarify values, what matters more: freedom or security? Growth or comfort? Your values should guide your decisions, not trends. This isn't easy. Knowing yourself can be painful. You might realize you've been living a script that isn't yours. But that moment is your power. Section 5, The Power of Self-Knowledge, vertical bar. When you truly know yourself, you become unshakable. You stop chasing things just to impress others. You stop overcommitting because you know your limits. You stop comparing because you've chosen your own path. Self-knowledge gives you clarity, and clarity is power. It helps you say no to what doesn't matter. It gives you the courage to walk away from toxic environments. It frees you from the need to perform your life for others. You begin living intentionally, thoughtfully, honestly. And when you mess up, you're not crushed by shame. Because you're living examined, you're growing. In a noisy world, knowing yourself is revolutionary. Socrates didn't leave behind wealth, power, or fame. He left behind an idea that pierced through illusion, shattered arrogance, and awakened wisdom. Know thyself. He died for it, but you don't have to. You can start today. Ask the hard questions. Challenge your assumptions. Look inward, not for perfection, but for truth. Because once you begin to know yourself, you don't just change your life. You take control of it.